My name is Hannah, and this is my year of less stuff. Hey y'all, welcome to the check-in video about the project that I started about a month ago. I went through my makeup and I talked about which items of my current makeup collection I would actually go out and repurchase again with my own money if I were starting over from scratch with my makeup. I wanted to talk about which are the things that are indispensable to me, which are the things that I love so much and also use so much that I feel like they'd be worth my money. It wasn't necessarily like a budgeting thing. I wasn't thinking how much would I be willing to spend all at once if I was replacing my makeup all at once. I feel like that would be a different video. The core of this project was to consider which of the makeup items that I already own would be worth my actual money to me eventually, even if it was over time, even if I was starting from scratch and building a collection over time. So what I did was I isolated those products and I used only them for a little over a week. It was maybe about 10 days. And then I reported back about which things that I missed, which of the things that I had put away in a box, because that's what I did with all the rest of it. I put it all away in a box. Which things I kind of thought wistfully about and wish I had. This is not to necessarily say that I feel like I would definitely go on and buy those things as well, and then I would buy all the other things as well. I'm just dealing with the collection that I have and kind of trying to figure out which things I love the most, which things I want to keep. We're now kind of moving outside the boundaries of which things I would definitely repurchase again with my own money, and just finding out which items in my collection I think about a lot, which ones I remember, which ones I instinctively reach for, even if they're not the ones that I think that I would definitely repurchase again. So it's an ongoing experiment. It's a dynamic experiment. It's been about a month that I've been using this relatively minimal or minimalist for me version of my makeup collection built of items that I already owned. And I'm going to talk about how I'm feeling, how it's gone over the past month, what I have missed, what I'm going to do going forward, etc. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. By the way, I moved some things around. I'm over the angle of the other thing. The wallpaper, the piece that I have, it's so narrow that for me to have it fill the frame, I have to do some things that I feel aren't ideal in terms of where I'm placing the camera, how zoomed in it is, where the lighting is, etc. So I'm gonna play around with moving stuff around. I feel like all the good beauty gurus, the people that I Mariah Leonard. That's really who I'm talking about. Who am I kidding? I'm just talking about Mariah Leonard. A lot of times she has a different background for almost every video. She's just always setting up something fresh. Sometimes she'll return to her regular desk with the dresser in the background, but I feel like there's something to that. There's something to mixing it up. So I might start experimenting with other spots around the house. But for today, this is it. And I feel like it's appropriate because all the makeup I'm going to be talking about is here in the background. First things first, with this experiment, talking about how it has unfolded, it must be said that in the second half of the month, so the first half of the month was pretty pure, and that was the part that I was reporting back on before. So I just used the makeup I picked out, then I added a handful of pieces to it, and then I just used that for a little while. And then in the second half of the month, a bunch of PR came in and effed up the game. It completely sullied the experiment. So the month-long version of this experiment has been interrupted or turned into something that's maybe not the same as it would be for most of you at home if you were doing this, because I'm on YouTube and I received PR and I've been testing stuff. And it hasn't even just been PR. It's actually maybe in equal measure or maybe even more been a matter of the fact that I've tested a couple of things for review that I actually purchased with my channel review budget over the past month. But it is still very true to my life and my experience. Part of my life and part of my experience is that I am reviewing things and new things are coming in and I'm trying to decide about them, and that's how it's going to be for a little while yet, at least. So for me, the experiment is clear, the water runs clear of the experiment, because I'm finding out how I relate to my roughly minimalist makeup collection, or minimalist for me makeup collection, not only in isolation, which was kind of the first 2 weeks, but also in a situation where I'm having to contend with the allure of PR, the allure of things that I'm testing out for review. And it's not just the allure, it's also that it's part of the work that I'm doing. So it's like the fact that that's part of my job. But I actually think that in a way, it's heightened the stakes, because for the first couple of weeks, it was just like, here's the makeup that I picked out that I have to use. And so which of those things am I reaching for? And then also, is there anything that I know is packed away in the box that I want? And that was it. But for the second 2 weeks, it's been like, here's all the makeup that I picked out that I said I would repurchase again. And then the couple things I added to it. And then there's this other stuff that's like stuff that I feel like I need to get use out of so that I can review it. I'm testing it. I want to find out how it works. There's this whole other dynamic, this other presence. If I then reached for something in that first group, something that I had pulled out of my own collection as something that I feel like is my favorite of all favorites, if I reached for it, in spite of the fact that I was testing stuff for review, reached for it over and over, in spite of the fact that I was testing stuff for review, that really says something. And if there are things that slipped through the cracks, because not because I don't love them, but because I was so distracted by this other part of my job, that also kind of says something. So it's made it kind of like a bit muddier, but also kind of a bit more dramatic. I'm going to try to go quickly through every single item that I have out. Some of it will be, I'll be going through it for the second time, because in the first video I'll have gone through everything. But I didn't do that one face to face, so I feel like it's a little bit different. But I'm gonna go through every single item and basically tell you whether I used it or not since the last check-in, and then see if I have anything else to say for myself about it. So I'll be talking about kind of like which things I reached for in spite of the fact that I was reviewing some PR and had some self-sponsored reviews on the docket. And then I will talk about what I missed, because I did miss some things. I did kind of miss more things that I hadn't missed in the first couple of weeks. I'll talk about what I missed and why, and I'll once again fish those things out and add them in. And then I'll talk about what I'm going to do next to conclude this project, which, by the way, has been awesome. I love this project. It's worked out so well for me. It's been such a joy. All right, let's start with all of the eyeshadows and eyeshadow type products. So my 2 Rowan quads I definitely used. I wore the shadows in these quads for sure during this time. I feel like even with 3 now, because I just purchased the 3rd one to review, and that review is already up. I think you guys will have mostly seen it. It's up on my channel, the 1111 quad review. Even with 3, I reach for these a lot, and I'm going to continue to do that. And that's fantastic. They feel like good investments for me personally. I talked about this a little bit in the 1111 quad review, but it feels to me like the frequency with which I use these, and the cool quad was a gift, so it wasn't an investment, but I kind of feel like owning something, deciding to keep it if it was a gift, or deciding to keep it if it was PR, in a weird way for me, it's like an investment of my space. It's not monetary, but it still feels like a choice, you know? So I just feel like it's a good choice for me to own these quads, even though 3 is a lot to me of the same type of thing, because they just never languish. Same with the Tom Ford cream and powder eye color in Naked Bronze. I reach for this all the time. All the time. I just feel like the cream on the bottom is like my default base for my eye. And I feel like, especially in the absence of the Natasha Denona gold palette with Kava, that shade that I use a lot, the glitter on the top is my default sort of shimmery glaze on an eye. So I feel like I was reaching for this almost daily, and I often combine it with the Rowan quads. I didn't reach for either of my glitter gels over these past 2 weeks, and it's probably because of this current situation. I just haven't been feeling like a glitter eye in quarantine very much. I did wear some glitter within the first 2 weeks, so in the course of the month, I reached for a product like this one time. But again, I think that is because of the situation, because when I'm going out to events, I almost inevitably use this type of product. The Nabla Cutie palette, this was something that I had pulled in the first round, or I guess it would have been the second round. I had pulled it because when I did my swatch video, swatching all of my eyeshadow palettes, I was so impressed by the creaminess of the formula. And I did use it a bunch in the week or 2 after I had pulled it, because I wanted to experiment with that creamy formula and getting like a sheen on the eye with it. it didn't rise to the very top of my estimation and become my new favorite, but I definitely used it and I definitely like it. It's been fun to have it around. It's great for a neutral eye, and the formula is a little bit more interesting and dynamic than just a basic matte or satin powder formula or a basic shimmer formula. It's got an interesting creamy texture, and I do like that. But I would say that my feeling about this has been kind of like nice. The Persona Identity 2 palette, in these past 2 weeks, I haven't made any like dynamic, colorful looks using the colors in it. Sorry, I don't think I showed you the novel palette. I'm trying to go quickly through these, but I also don't want to, you know, it to be like super boring. Like I said, yeah, I didn't like use the green or use the blue or use the red or anything, but I reached for this all the time for the black and the brown, not just the matte brown, but also the shimmer brown to add dimension to looks. It's my go-to useful palette. So I used it constantly and I wouldn't want to be without it at this point. And then my singles. So the Clionadh singles haven't been getting that much use because, again, I've been doing slightly simpler and more natural looks. I also haven't reached for the ColourPop glitters, even though I pulled them in the second round. I just haven't wanted to wear glitter. I feel like even when I've been filming, I've been going for like sort of a quicker and more glossy neutral eye look these days. I did, however, remember that I had pulled these two singles from Adept. One is like a shimmery taupe, ACS 17, sort of like a shimmery grayish taupe. And then one is a sheer blue-brown pigment topper, ACD6. And I love building just like a simple, grungy, cool-toned eye look with these two shadows as like the only two shadows. It's one of my favorite quick go-to looks, and I had missed them in the first week or two, and I had pulled them in the second round. I remember that they were here, and I opened this palette to use them a number of times during the like rest of the month of this experiment. So those are definitely staple shadows for me. And it was really interesting that I didn't remember that in the first round, and I was so glad that I had added them back in for the second round. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about what I missed in terms of eyeshadow, so that it's not just like all chatter about that makeup and then a long list of what I missed. I'm going to go category by category. I finally missed the gold palette enough to want to pull it. I really miss Kava. It's actually shinier. It's slicker and shinier than the topper and the lid of the Tom Ford Cream and Powder. And I feel like when I use up Kava, I'm not going to repurchase the whole gold palette to get it back. Like, I'll be sad when it's gone, but this will be fine. Like, I'll be able to just use this going forward. But since I haven't used it up and I know that it's in there just languishing, I finally got to the point where I was like, I really, really want to pull it out. And I also miss like the grungy mustards in there. I miss the grungy bronzes. I miss the kind of like variety of creamy bronzes that are in there. I really love that palette. And I think that I wouldn't buy it with my own money. I have so many beautiful singles. I can do similar looks. But I got to the point where I was like, you know, if I was starting from scratch with my makeup, I would probably ask for the gold palette again for Christmas. Like, that's what I would do. I would, if someone was going to give me a gift, like a nice gift of like around $100 or something like that, I would be like, you know what? I'd like to use my gift opportunity on this palette again. That's how I got it the first time. I put it on my Christmas wish list and my sister got it for me. And it's my favorite eyeshadow palette. So I missed it enough to pull it, and I'm gonna pull it and put it with everything else at the end of this video. And I can't wait to start using it again. I just feel like I can't wait to get into that matte mustard, which is so weird for me because I'm not usually a matte lover, but I miss that shadow and I miss Kava. I miss everything about it. And then there was only one other eyeshadow product that I missed. It was so interesting. Ofra sent me this beautiful little 5-pan palette. I used it during a Get Ready With Me, which I will try to remember to link, but it's pretty recent on my channel. It's like, I think it's like Get Ready With Me Smoky Eyes for Daytime or something like that. It's the signature palette Irresistible Smoky Eyes, performed beautifully. I really, really liked the look that I got from it. But one of the things that attracted me to this palette is that it has a nearly black charcoal color that has a sheen to it. And it swatches out with a really pretty sheen. Like, it does look slightly wet on the fingers. And when I put it on my lids to begin with, it had a little bit of that sheen. But then as I blended it with the other shadows and added depth to the look with a matte black, the sheeniness blended away and it didn't really have that glitter anymore. It just almost like performed like a matte. I loved the look that I got with this palette when I did that. It made me want to do more looks like that, like a smoky eye that's sort of simple enough in how diffused it is, like not too structured, not too dramatic, but sort of diffused and washy, like a watercolory version of a cool tone smoky eye, such that it works for day and I feel like myself and I don't feel like overly made up. But I wished that I could get that with a little bit more sheen, and it made me miss that L'Oreal single. I'll actually go ahead and grab it because I'm gonna get it out anyway, and I'll get the gold palette out too because I wanna be able to tell you exactly what it is right now that I'm talking about it. Okay, so it's the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Eyeshadow in Eternal Black. And it's in this little pot, and it has a lot of shine in it, and it retains that shine when you apply it to the eyes. So it was funny, after doing that look with the Over palette, the very next day I woke up and I wanted to do that same look, but just as a one shadow look with this, maybe combined with the Over palette a little bit, and I hadn't pulled this, so I couldn't do that. And I was like, I definitely want to pull it on the next round. So I'm pulling this, and then here's the gold palette, my precious. I'm pulling it as well. All right, let's talk about base products and like standards that I can't live without, all of my mascaras, all of that kind of stuff. That's what's in here. It's just like my everyday, like my non-color cosmetics makeup. So base in the broadest sense of the word. I only have one eyeshadow primer, so there's nothing I can really say about it. There's not a backup. There's not one in the box. I only have one and I'm using it and it's fine. The VDL Lumi Layer Primer I've not gotten tired of. I think that this month has shown me that this could truly be my only primer and I would be fine. There hasn't been a single day when I was like, this doesn't serve my purposes. My skin never changes in such a way that it's like, this is too shiny, or it's not something, not moisturizing enough, not mattifying enough or something. Like I don't have skin where I need different primers to suit different occasions or to suit different foundations or something like that. The thing that I really hit a wall with though with it is that only having one and not rotating among a small handful, I noticed how quickly I was using it up. Not like so quickly that I feel like it makes it not worth the money, especially if you get it from somewhere like Yes Style. You can usually find it for like around $15 or $16, I think, on Yes Style, or at least occasionally you can find it for that amount, even though it costs, I think, closer to 25 or 30 if you get it from Ulta. So it is worth it to me. Like I would buy it again and again with my own money because it's such a staple product for me. It's so lovely, and I feel like it really contributes to the finished look of my skin. And I feel like the way that my skin ends up looking throughout the day, it's like the thing that I care the most about in makeup. So this product is really a priority for me. But knowing that because of who I am, I'm not going to repurchase it until I've used up all of my other primer, and knowing that I have other primers and that I was, because of this experiment, just using and using and using this one, and that I was like gonna run out of it and then have to slog through my other primers before I could rebuy it again. Knowing that that was happening, eventually I got to the point where I was like, I really, really wish I could pull my other primers out and start spreading the love so that I could make this one last longer. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to liberate my other couple of primers. I don't even have that many. Yeah, it's just this Yensa primer, the Essential Glow Primer, which is really nice, but it's not as glowy as I like. It's just a really, really nice primer. I'll be happy to use it up. The Glossier Future Dew, which is very glossy and glowy, and I love the finish that it gives to my skin, but it isn't as tenacious as the other primers. So again, I like to be able to just add it in like on the cheeks or add it in for some variety, but I wouldn't want it to be my only one. And then this is on its very last legs. It's almost used up, the Clarins SOS Primer. So I'm going to pull those guys back out just so that I can take a break, or give this one a break every couple of days, every once in a while, and therefore make it last a little bit longer. But I'm glad that I stuck to it for a month, because it really showed me that my propensity to kind of wish for variety is not going to disrupt my relationship, my faithful relationship with the VDL Lumi Layer Primer. So let's talk about concealers. I had pulled this ColourPop concealer, I think, when I ran out of my Makeup Forever one. It wasn't part of the experiment, and I didn't end up liking it as much as I like the one from Makeup Forever. So I'm going to give that one away. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to put it back in the giveaway box from whence it came. I replaced my Makeup Forever HD Ultra HD Concealer as like a straight up replacement. I'll talk about that in my video about what I bought with my budget in April. Yeah, upcoming. And then the Aaron's Faces concealer has continued to be a true hero product for me. It's like a really, really dewy base. Love that journey. And I've just been like using the butt out of it. So I'm fine, everything's fine. I'm back to the 2 base products with which I started, or rather the 3, because there's also a green color corrector. And the Makeup Forever Ultra HD, even though this is my 2nd tube of it in a row, and I just literally replaced it, I'm so happy to have it. I would rather have the same thing again than have variety with this product because it's so sort of skin-like and watery, but has great coverage and it's the perfect color for me. It's just perfect and nothing else will do. At least nothing else will do as well as it. So nothing's changed in that realm. And I was thinking vaguely about that Bobbi Brown, Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Stick, which I do love. I do love the finish of. And I was like, do I wish I had it? Like, do I want to bring it out and mess with it? And I just am so happy with the Aaron's Faces concealer in that same capacity, in that same role, that I actually don't miss it. The only reason I would bring it out would be for the same reason I brought out the other primers, like to extend the life of this concealer by mixing it in with some other products and giving it a break every once in a while. Mascaras, I've said this before, but I'm just using all the ones that I have open right now. So I have my waterproof one and I have the Glossier one that I reviewed, this Grande Lash one, which I had opened at one point, and then I have these 2, which were for review, the Gucci one and the Aaron's Faces one. And I've just been using them all, trying to get through them, trying to make sure that I get good use out of them. 5 is a lot of mascaras to have open at one time for me. I'd be fine with just one. This experiment doesn't really pertain to mascara, basically, because it isn't something that it would make sense to like put some away and just use other ones and see if I missed the other ones, because they're ticking time bombs. You know what I mean? There's a time limit on them. So it would have been wasteful to do that. So I'm just using the ones that I have. The CoverGirl Easy Breezy Brow, I had missed a lot and pulled. I had realized that I really didn't like only having soap brows at my disposal. And I had pulled this, even though it's really messy, it's on its last legs, the stopper is out, it's goopy, it's old. I had pulled it because I just felt like using soap every single day was too harsh on my brows. But since I got the Patrick Ta Major Brow for review, I've been using it every day and I've completely stopped using this. The last several times I used it, it was really tough to use because it's so old. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my empties. Eyeliners, I've just been using like normal and I haven't missed other eyeliners at all. I'm such an eyeliner basic bee. I'm like an eyeliner minimalist. The one I've been using the most is this Eye Kohl from Lancome. It's pretty stubby at this point, like it doesn't have that point anymore. And I use it kind of like an eye crayon. Like actually my eye look today, it's just the super shimmery, flaky shade from the Rowan 1111 quad, the really pale one. And this smudged into the outer corner and blended in for dimension. So I've been using it kind of like a eyeliner and eyeshadow combo and really, really growing to appreciate it more than I ever have before because it's one of the only ones that I have to reach for. So that's been great. I've reached for my NARS Creamy Concealer a bit. It's in here too with the other concealers, but I don't use that as consistently. And then this is just the eyebrow pencil that came out of my backups box because I used up the other one that I had. So when it comes to these kinds of base products, true to form and similar to how it was in the first check-in, I just like using the same things over and over. I just like using what works the best. It's weirdly like maybe my second favorite part of makeup. I love putting on my base. I love putting on that Aaron's Faces concealer and that green color corrector and blending it out every morning and just seeing that glossy, dewy, lovely coverage, lovely skin-like coverage. I just love it. It makes me happy every single day. The only thing that I like more is putting on a glossy, blushy cheek. And maybe they're tied. I love those 2 steps of makeup. It's weird. I don't need variety. It's not weird. It's just how it is. And it's good to be able to state it over and over. And it's nice to see that this truth has played out as being definitely true in the context of this experiment. I don't need variety, but I'm pulling my other primers just so that I won't run out of the VDL Lumilayer primer so fast. All right, let's talk about cheeks. Cheeks were really interesting. I think in the first round, I didn't add anything. Is that correct? The only things that I added were the powder products from the Samantha March collab with Ofra. I added them in here after I reckoned with them. They were in the Purgatory box. And I remember during the first round kind of feeling like, oh, I wish I could reach for those more. I wasn't really playing with them because I knew I had already decided about them. So they're in Purgatory, and I was trying to really focus on just the ones that I had pulled in the first round. I only really have the one, or you know, there's another powder blush or two I think in the drawer, but I have a very small collection of powders for the face. I really, really love the cream cheeks. And so when I added these in, I was like, there's so many powders in this small selection on top of my vanity, and I kind of had to dig through all the time to get to my creams. But I did wear them a lot. I think over the past week or so, I've kind of wanted to go for an even more dramatic cheek, like even more dramatically glossy, maybe even a little bit more made up than just sort of like the watery cream glossy cheek. And so I've been reaching a lot for the Chicklet blush, especially the darker and more shiny side, kind of like as a topper just on the tips of my cheekbones. I don't have it on today, but I've been doing that a lot when I want to like really bring the drama. And I've also been reaching a lot for Samantha's highlighter, the Start Inspired highlighter, and topping my cream cheek looks with it just in a very glossy sheer layer to bring that wet look drama. It's been fun. So these products have been kind of like getting me a little bit more back into powder products. I've been doing the same thing with my powder blush in Miel Glacé. It's the Lancome blush that I really, really love. This is like my all-time favorite powder blush, the best of the best of the best. And I've been doing some slightly more dramatic blush looks with it lately too. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I have felt like, whoa, that's a lot of blush and bronzer and stuff right there on top of my vanity. But at the same time, I've been feeling my oats a little bit with powder blush in a way that I don't always do, and that's been nice. So interesting. The creams, though, I've used them all. Once again, I've rotated through them assiduously. I've used them aggressively. I used ColourPop from Roosevelt from ColourPop a ton. I love this stick blush. I continue to love the ColourPop Clean Fresh Cream Blush in Flushed for that amazing fevered pinched cheek. It's so, so beautiful, and I love the finish of it. I've dug back into the Rituel Defee one, the brown blush. It's Eros. It's like a true brown because I realized that I didn't use it for the first week or two, and so I made myself use it more for the next week or two, and I loved it. I love the really dramatic, like icy, not icy, obviously it's not icy like we usually mean that, but it makes me look like I'm a little bit chilly, and I love that. And then I used the Can Make Cream Cheek a ton. I used the Lila Be Incredible. This came out of the Purgatory box actually, and I popped it in here, and then I ended up using it a ton. So this wasn't in there before, but it joined the party partway through the month. And I even used Glossier Dusk a couple times, mixing them all almost every time with the Hollywood Beauty Light Wand in Spotlight from Charlotte Tilbury. I use this product maybe the most of all of my cheek products because I use it with, I definitely use this the most of all my cheek products because I use it with a cream blush almost every time. Sometimes I put it on by itself and then put a little bit of powder blush on top of it. So I took a break from it to test out that Becca product, which was just like a total fail, crash and burn. And I'm really glad to be returning to it. I've also been using the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Highlighter in Sahara a lot to deepen up my neck and to give my neck a little bit of ruddy color to match my face, because I find that unless I take great pains and I put on like a little bit more of the brightening concealer, the Makeup Forever one, than I'm quite comfortable with wearing, my face always ends up looking a little bit darker than my neck. If I just go in with a quite light layer of those products, my neck always looks like, it just looks like beaming yellow white when my face is done. And the easiest way to take care of that is to just bronze up my neck a little bit. And so I look like I'm all one color. I'm really, really glad that I've had this out because I depend on it quite heavily for that. The cheek products, the collection of cheek products, it's been a smash hit. The stuff that's out, I use it. I love having a variety of cheek products, and I've even enjoyed having more of a variety among powders and creams during the second half of the month. I think that it's time for me to admit that I just really, really, really love cheek products, and it's okay with me if my collection swells a little bit, like in this area. I feel like it brings me a lot of joy. And I also, it's practical for me because I do use them a lot. I mean, makeup isn't like the most practical thing, but it's just, it's not one of those weird things where I'm like, oh, I really love it. Like, I think at this point with most eyeshadow palettes, it's a little delusional for me to be like, oh yeah, like I need another eyeshadow palette, because a lot of them just don't get used. I think with blushes, it's not really like that. I really use them all and I really, really love them all. And that's just okay. It's the exact opposite from how I feel about my base products, where I have this other beautiful base product, the Bare Minerals one, in the drawer, languishing, and it's beautiful. And I just don't miss having the option to reach for it. I'm fine with the ones that I have. But even though all of these are beautiful and I use them all more than once over the course of the month, I kind of do miss like all the other ones. I just wish I could reach for all of them. So I'm not going to go in and like pull them. I'm going to wait until I do the next phase of this product where I go through everything that was in exile and basically declutter it. And then everything will rejoin, all the blush friends will rejoin each other and I'll be able to use them all. I just feel like it's worth noting. I love my blush collection just the way it is. And I've learned that over this month. There was one that was there only one? There were 2 cheek products that I actively missed at one point or another and that I wrote down, and those are the ones that I'll pull. I wished that I could dig back into my Clinique Cheek Pop in Nude Pop. And it was because I was watching Lacey's haul video where she talked about all the things that she hauled on her birthday and got for her birthday. And she talked about having received as a gift or purchased, I can't remember which one it was, a Marc Jacobs blush. I think it's called Lines and Last Night, or it might be Flesh and Fantasy, but I think it's Lines and Last Night. It's the Marc Jacobs blush that in that range I had always coveted. Like of the range, there's one, and I do think it's Lines and Last Night, or maybe it's Flesh and Fantasy. I'll put it on the screen. There's one of those blushes that when they first came out, was the one that I wanted, and I never purchased it. And every time I think about them, or I hear Sarah Hubler talking about them because she loves those blushes, and then when I heard Lacey talking about it, I was like, oh, I've always wanted that blush. I've always wanted that blush. And then Lacey said that she saw swatches, a bunch of swatches, comparing it to Clinique Nude Pop. She thinks that that blush is basically a dupe for Nude Pop. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have Nude Pop. And then I really wished that I could use it the next day and feel my oats and feel like I don't need that Marc Jacobs blush anymore because I have Nude Pop. Alas, it's put away. So I'm going to pull that one. And then the other one that I started missing, the other cheek product I started missing, was the Fenty Diamond Bomb Highlight, because when I was testing out that Becca one, I loved the way that it looked, but I hated the way that it wore. And I observed when swatching it, when I first opened it, that it looks almost exactly like the Fenty Diamond Bomb. So I was wearing that Becca thing and I was like, ugh, I wish I could get this look, but without this sticky, goopy, oily finish. And then I was like, oh, I can get the look, but without the sticky, goopy, oily finish in the Fenty product. It looks exactly the same, but it's in the drawer and I don't have access to it under the rules of this experiment. So I'm going to pull those guys. Clinique Nude Pop and How Many Carats from Fenty. All right, lastly but not leastly, let's discuss lippies. Okay, this has been so interesting. I did not know myself. At the beginning, I was like, I'd be fine with just like 1.5 lipsticks. I just delusionally believed that I was much more of a lipstick minimalist than I really am. And not just lipsticks, but lip product minimalist than I really am. I have an interesting relationship I'm learning with lip products, which is that on many days, I do the rest of my makeup and then I feel like a statement lip would be too much. It's because it's what I do last. I like do the lips last. And I'm sensitive to like feeling overdone. And so a lot of times my lips get short shrift because I've indulged in my eyes or I've indulged in my cheeks. And then I get to the lips and I'm like, just a sheer gloss today or just a chapstick today so that these other elements of my look can shine. But in isolation, when I'm just thinking about lipstick as an element of a look or lip gloss as something textural or nourishing, in isolation, it's like one of my favorite things in makeup. I think I even like lipstick more than eyeshadow. I had been kind of hard on myself leading up to this project. I'd been like, Hannah, you don't really wear your lipsticks. You have so many lipsticks for someone who wears lipstick as little as you do. Like you could just pick like one nude and one red and one gloss, and that would be it. And you'd never miss the other ones. You're so delusional about how much you like lipstick, blah, 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 blah. So that was what I did. I just picked like 4 or 5. I had like a couple, like a brown, a grayish, a red, and a gloss or something. And then, I proceeded and immediately proceeded to miss like 10 of my lip products actively. Meaning I was like sitting there like, oh, I wish I'd pulled my Bobbi Brown Crushed Lip Colors, or oh, I wish I'd pulled a plumping gloss, or I wish I had my Fenty gloss, or I wish I had my XYZ. I really, really missed them, and I wrote a bunch of them down, and then I pulled them for the second round. But here's the kicker. The same thing happened again. I used all of these, I think. Let's go through them really quickly, but I think I used all of them, and yet I missed others. I do miss them. I feel like my relationship with my lipsticks is actually closer than I was giving it credit for. Similar to the blushes, it's almost like this is making me feel more okay wanting that sense of abundance than I previously did. I had been kind of like punishing myself for that sense of abundance, and now I'm like, oh no, actually in my daily life, it is something that does bring me joy, and I feel like it's more okay to have a little bit more than maybe seems reasonable or like perfectionist or ideal or ideally minimalist to me, because it's just the way that I actually am. It's not just a lie I'm telling myself. It's actually the way that I am. So I used my glosses a ton. I have been so into gloss lately. The Fenty gloss, I don't know where it is. I couldn't find it yesterday when I actually wanted to wear it. I don't know where it could have possibly gone, because like I'm not using my purses or my coats, and that's usually where glosses go when they're lost. And I also cleaned the house this weekend and didn't find it. It's probably just in the corner on the floor somewhere. But I wore the Erin Spaces Mineral Lip Gloss a ton. I love how shiny it makes my lips look. It's almost like it's the most diamond glossy of all of my lip glosses. So I loved the look that I was getting from this. I wore the Crushed Oil Infused Lip Gloss from Bobbi Brown a ton. It's much more cream finish, much more opaque, very different look, but so nourishing. Reaching for this one constantly. I didn't wear Millie from Ofra, which is Samantha's gloss, as much as the other ones, but I did wear it a couple of times. It's a bit more of a look, so it adds more like makeup drama to my face, and I tend to go for a gloss when I'm trying to, again, go for something toned down. It's just so glittery and it's so icy. It's very beautiful, and I really like the Ofra formula. I wore the Urban Decay High Shine Cushion Lip Gloss in Naked a ton. It's the plumping gloss that I pulled in the last round. It's what I'm wearing today. I've worn it way more than I had been wearing it, actually, because it was part of this exclusive crew, and I feel like my relationship with it has been revamped. It's very beautiful, and it also treats my lips well. And then this one I might have reached for the most of all, the Revlon Super Lustrous, the gloss, one of my favorite discoveries of 2019. It's in the shade Blissed Out. It's a very oily, thin, non-sticky formula, but it looks stunning, and it has a big, thick doe foot applicator. I wore all of my glosses that I had out. I used the Fenty one a lot too, and then I lost it, and I missed others. I wished for more. There were days when I looked at these 6 lip glosses and I was like, the one I want isn't here. It's in the box. And I think the first ones that I missed were the Persona glosses. I actively missed them, especially the orange one, but I also missed Honey. I'm definitely going to pull them. I just feel like there's something about the balance of sheerness and color that they have that does set them apart from these glosses. I've become like a lip gloss connoisseur, something I never expected to be. I always thought that I was kind of like fine with any old gloss, like seen one gloss, seen them all. Turns out that I do not feel that way. I missed the Persona glosses. I missed the In Beauty Project lip oil, that like Jolly Rancher clear jelly type thing. I missed that. Those are the only 2 that I wrote down, the In Beauty Project and the Persona glosses. Those are the only 2 that I'm going to pull. And that's like going to be most of my lip gloss collection, because these plus those 3 plus the Fenty one that's lost, like that's a lot. That's a lot of lip glosses. I think I'm maybe gonna have more out than I have in, but that's good, because I feel like that's showing me that the majority of my gloss collection is in rotation, and that's what I want. That's what I want, and that's what I want to know. Like, that's great. That's like the best news that I could have gotten in terms of lip gloss from this project. So let's talk about non-gloss lipsticks. Bobbi Brown Bear, the Crushed lip color, was one that I pulled in the second phase of the project because I hadn't pulled any Bobbi Brown Crushed lip colors in the first round and I missed them so much. And I wore this a ton. I actually did even wear the other two a bit, Telluride and Babe. I wore them a bit. I wore Bear the most. Did I wear Shiop? Which actually, you guys have been telling me in the comments, but I couldn't quite process it. And then I recently watched a video on Trixie Mattel's channel where a makeup artist came on and they were talking about pink makeup. And the makeup artist, who I think is called, I can't remember her name, Darian something. I'll link it. Actually, I'll link it. It's a great video for makeup lovers. Really, really fun to watch. But the makeup artist who was on there talked about this lipstick, this NARS lipstick that I love. And she pronounced it, and it finally clicked how it's really supposed to be pronounced, which is scap. It's pronounced scap. I missed it during the first round, and then I pulled it, and then I didn't wear it. So I'm going to try to remember to do that. But all the other ones I wore. I got really into Gone Grayish for a couple of days. I wore my Gucci lipstick whenever I wanted a red. I used a little bit of raw chocolate here and there just to like give a little depth, especially when I was filming. I didn't wear the liquid lipstick from Ofra. This was one that I had put into my desktop collection instead of into the Exile drawer. I, again, have been like sort of going for more of a natural lip look, but I am very glad to have it. That's the one from Samantha's collab. So I think that with like the bullet lipsticks or the thicker lipsticks, I didn't wear them as much as the glosses, and I didn't like actively miss any that weren't out, but I did enjoy them. Now that I kind of have these new feelings, this new understanding of how I feel about this type of product, which is that it's getting short shrift because of the order in which I apply my makeup, but that doesn't line up with my fondness for it. Now that I'm able to articulate that to myself, I think I might start doing that thing where I apply the lip product first and then the rest of the makeup. I feel like there's nothing that I need to pull when it comes to lipstick, but I started to miss other lip liner colors. I missed my lip liners. So this is the Givenchy number 9 lip liner. It's the only one that I pulled, and it is my favorite one, and I've used a ton of it. It's just down to this little tiny size. And I was missing having like a more brown one and a more nude one. And I was missing those Charlotte Tilbury ones that are in like slightly vampier colors. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pull a couple of my lip liners in addition to those lip glosses. All right, so I got the In Beauty Project gloss, got the Persona glosses, and I'm gonna pull these 3 lip liners for now. So the LA Girl lip liner in Cafe, which is like a paler and more brown than the Givenchy one. And then I have Charlotte Tilbury Walk of Shame and Bond Girl, and I'm gonna add them in. I just love wearing lip liners as a lip color, and just having the one was great for like the first couple of weeks, and then in the next couple of weeks I started to miss having variety in that corner. So go figure. This has been so interesting. So now that's everything. Or let's see if there's anything else on the list. Oh, so when I started wearing powder blush, I missed having a setting spray. So I'm going to pull a setting spray as well. I had talked about not in this series, but I think in a Get Ready With Me, I talked about the fact that I didn't pull a setting spray in the first round, and it makes me think that if I were starting over from scratch, I wouldn't buy a setting spray. That was true when I was only using cream blushes like day in and day out. And then when I started incorporating powder highlight and powder blush again, I missed having a setting spray. So I think that actually I probably would eventually acquire one, like an inexpensive one. I'm gonna pull this one from In Beauty Project and just like have it on my vanity. I have actually been using like the Glossier Rose Water spray a little bit when I've used powder products because I had it out because I use it for my brow gel or my brow soap, but I don't like spraying it in my face because it makes me cough. There's something about the scent and the fineness of the particles. So I was using it because I was that desperate to have something to like spray to sort of rehydrate the powder products I was putting on my cheeks. I was using it even though I don't like the experience of using it, and that shows me that I would probably kind of like miss setting spray after a good while during those phases when I'm playing once again with powder cheek products. So let's talk about how it's going, what's happening, and what I'm going to do next. Here's what's happening. I'm starting to feel like the collection that I have out on my vanity is resembling like my makeup collection as it was before. Maybe with the exception of eyeshadow. I feel like in terms of like what I have to choose from lipsticks and lip glosses, I mean, I know that I have more than this. I know that I have like more lip glosses that are packed away, and I have more lipstick that are packed away. But in terms of like my ability to choose from what's here, my ability to keep it all in my Makeup Mind palace, it is no longer resembling a minimalist version of my collection. It's just like a pretty large random selection of my collection. I mean, it's not random because it's stuff that I handpicked. It's the stuff that I like the most or that I'm most eager to use right now. But like in terms of lips and in terms of blush, I don't feel like this, like it's a very spare collection or I'm using the same thing every day. I feel like my natural propensity for variety and my appreciation of having a sense of abundance in those areas is showing. And it's causing me to draw enough pieces out of the Exile box that I now have that sort of sense of abundance on my vanity as part of this project. And so it's kind of like, it's like we've passed the event horizon and I've flipped over to being someone who has like a pretty large collection of lip products that she's working with and a pretty large collection of cheek products that she's working with. For me, like that's how it's starting to feel. With base, you know, it's a pretty minimal collection, but there aren't that many things that are packed away for base. It's not like I have 10 foundations and I decided to only use like this one concealer for a month. This is pretty much what I have to work with, whether this experiment is going on or not. In the realm of eyeshadow, it's a pretty different story, actually. I think the eyeshadows with which I'm working are a very, very small percentage still, even after a month and even after drawing everything that I wanted out of my box. It's a very small percentage of what I own overall. And that makes me feel like I can let go of some eyeshadow, some of the eyeshadows that are in Exile. I haven't gone through it. I haven't really been trying to remember. And so it'll be interesting. And I think that that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go through the makeup that's in Exile and declutter it in light of this project. And it'll be interesting to see if there's anything in there that I'm like, oh yeah, you definitely don't need this. Because I feel like I need way less eyeshadow than I thought I maybe wanted to have. And I also feel like I like lipstick and blush right now and highlighter. It's not that I like them better, it's that I'm more okay with that feeling of abundance and variety in those realms. It just makes more sense to me for me. That's something that I'm learning from this project. And it's also teaching me, this project is teaching me to not fetishize a kind of minimalism that isn't what I actually want. I think that that's like seriously the takeaway. I love the idea of like only having one powder blush or just having the one cream highlight. But the fact is that I'll be happier with 2 or 3. And I know that that's probably different for every person. I think some people might be happier with 10. Some people might be happier with 30. I think that what's really important to me, and also I feel like for me to share as a thing that I think is important, what's important is not to like voraciously collect new ones all the time and throw out the old ones or let them slip to the back of the drawer, always chasing something better than what you have. Like, I think that there's a difference between constantly acquiring new makeup because the acquisition of it is the only thing that makes you feel good, and you have lost somewhere along the way the ability to be happy with what you have. There's a difference between that and being someone who appreciates having a variety of things that she really loves and enjoys rotating among and using on a daily basis. Sometimes that number can be large as long as it's a choice and you're loving what you actually have and using it, whether it is abundant or whether there are just a few of every given thing, whatever, as long as it's like a choice about what you own and a choice to curate what you own rather than a cycle of always like wanting and wanting more and more and more and nothing that you have is ever good enough, then to each her own when it comes to deciding how many you want of each type of thing. When I look at my cheek products, which I love all of them so much, and I've learned that I will use them. Like I've learned that as long as they're here, I will use them. Some of them are pretty new to me, you know, like the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Cream Blush is pretty new to me. And there's an argument for the idea that part of its glamour might be its newness. And I want to make sure that I'm making space for that and realizing that it might be the novelty that's contributing to how much I love it, even though I really love the way that it looks. And you can't, like, you couldn't convince me to part with it. Like, you can't pry it from my cold dead hands. If I lost it, I would buy it again, etc. Even though all of that is true, it's also a little bit novel right now. So I know that that's true, but at the same time, there are some products in here, like the Glossier Cloud Paint and Dusk and the Sahara Neo highlighter from Kevyn Aucoin, that I've owned since before I started my YouTube channel. Like, they are old standards. And some of them I haven't owned that long, but I have owned for a long time, like since towards the very beginning of my YouTube channel. Years. I mean, we're talking about going on 3 years, 4 years, some of these things. And they're the things that I said that I would buy again if I lost them. And they are things that I am reaching for as happily and as frequently as I am reaching for these things that are a little bit newer. So I feel like I can trust that what makes me happy, like, makes me happy. I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm able to separate that from the novelty of the new, or the excitement of the new, or the hamster wheel search for the next best thing. All right, I'm definitely starting to just wax poetic about all of the thoughts that I'm having as a result of this experiment, which makes sense. This is the last video in which I'm gonna go through the things that I've been using on my vanity and talk about what I missed. And actually, I think that the next video in this series, or the actual last one in this project, which is the one for which I go through the Exile box and declutter it, that's going to come up pretty soon. So in a funny way, this round of selecting things from that box to use was just a little bit for show, or just to go through the motions, because I'm going to film that Exile box declutter pretty soon, and then I'll be resetting my vanity back to how it was before, and all these things will go back into their places in my storage, along with the other things that I decide not to declutter. I just thought that it would be worth it to tell you what I missed enough to pull, if this experiment were going to continue on further. But I think that because I feel like I've kind of passed that event horizon of it no longer feels like a minimalist collection that I have out on my vanity. It feels like half of what I own is out. I think that in a way the spirit of the project has kind of collapsed, and so it's time to wrap it up and go through everything and just see what I want my collection to look like going forward in light of having done this experiment. I hope that all of this chattering about my feelings has made sense. I'm not trying to say that I regret the instinct to have fewer, nicer things. I mean, that is what this year is all about. And when I say that I'm making peace with the fact that I appreciate having a feeling of abundance when I look at my blushes, I'm not saying that fewer, nicer things is out the window, or that I don't still want to live my life that way. I think that it's more of coming to terms with the fact that fewer, nicer things for me does not mean as few things as I can possibly be happy with, or the highest level of stringency possible. Because this experiment, it was like I was trying that out. I was trying out the experience of really just having the most distilled version of my makeup collection possible. Not possible, but that the most distilled version that felt even remotely comfortable to me, and just seeing if I actually preferred that over having access to some of my other stuff too. I thought that there was a chance that I would actually prefer it, and that I would be I really do only need 4 lipsticks. I really do only need my 5 cream blushes and 1 powder blush, and I'll be happy for the rest of my life. And in some areas I've learned that I kind of really do only need the 5 eyeliners. I really don't miss the other ones at all. And I definitely miss way fewer of my eyeshadows than I thought I would. But I'm not trying to like push fewer, nicer things on myself against my own desire or against my own happiness. I'm trying to find out what will actually make me happy. And it turns out that having access to like 10 lip glosses makes me happier than just having one or two. And that is just what I've found. I'm not like trying to push an agenda or moralize or like claim that I'm right or that this is how the truth for everyone or something. This is just what I found. I did this experiment on myself and this is what I found. I found that I kept wanting to pull things out of the Exile box. And so I did, and I am not mad. Like, why would I be mad? Why would I be mad at myself for that? It's not the same, I think, as wanting to like constantly buy new things and not appreciating what I have. It's almost the opposite of that. It's like I remember what I have even when I pack it away and I miss it because I really, really love the things that I already have. And that is at the very core of the spirit of fewer, nicer things, the year of less stuff. And so it does make me happy. It does not trouble me. And that is it. I am so grateful to you for sticking it out through this entire video. I have a feeling that it's going to kind of be a long one. It's going to be like a long rambling one with a lot of like information and feelings and talking about a lot of makeup. And I hope that it was fun to watch. And for those of you who've been following along with this project at home, how is it going? Are you discovering similar things to me? Have you had a different reaction than the reaction that I've had? I would so love to hear your reports on how this has played out for you. And keep an eye out for the declutter of the exiled makeup. That is definitely going to be coming up soon. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in life.